interesting beginning to our episode of Shock Treatment for this evening.
Yes, life is all about interesting beginnings. You know what I mean? We're glad we can be involved in a few. So, welcome to Shock Treatment with Mel and Maddie, folks. How you doing over there, Mel?
I'm doing. It's been quite the day. I found out just exactly how technologically stupid I really am.
Oh no! What happened?
Oh, I was setting up the desktop, and it was just one thing after another to get it, actually working the way it, was supposed to be working. So
Yeah.
after about, 8 hours of wanting to, kill my computer and kill everybody around me because I was just aggravated.
Well, that's
I'm in a
technology for
better
you, right?
place now. I will sod and
Yeah.
good to go.
The
I
Ja?
mean, Justin probably wants to kill me by now, but
Do you follow the Ja?
yeah,
Are you familiar with the Ja?
the Ja.
I think
No, not
Ja.
really.
I think Ja is like the name for the Buddhist god or something like that, or Buddha. I know there's Buddha, but Ja is something. I think.
I mean, I've got the body. I've got the body of a god. It might be Buddha, but
My dad has a shirt that says "I'm in shape, round's a shape."
I say that all the time. That's my favorite. Or I'm not fat. I'm fluffy.
I like that. The husky. I have a magnet on my fridge that says that. I
The
heard
dog's
from.
not the only the dog's not the only husky in here.
I just heard from the agent of Anthony Thurber. We'll be sitting down with him soon. But before we have another guest with us, about to pop in with us real quick.
Yes, I'm so excited.
You know what I mean?
Get some woman power going.
Girl power is in the building. You know what I mean?
I have to say woman though, because she's not a girl.
That's true.
Hello.
Hey!
Hello. How are you? So sorry about the confusion.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I didn't think they were in LA. I thought they were on the East Coast, but
Yeah.
I was rolling with it. I thought, oh wow, I'm like 3 hours early, but then I thought, no, something's up. So yeah, no, I had some other business to do. And when I got back, I started to get your messages, and I thought, okay, I was right. Hello, how are you?
Awesome. I'm totally digging the background right now.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know what we were going to necessarily discuss, so I thought I also have
a little bit of everything, but because to go with the theme, I know you just celebrated the 35th anniversary of the release of Chopping Mall. So yeah. I'm not really surprised that you chose that. That's awesome.
Well, I have Night of the Comet too. It just all depends on what people want to talk about more. It's always those two. Sometimes it's Fast Times. It's usually always those two. So I have both of those backgrounds if you want.
Oh, whichever one you want is fine, but I like that one. That's cool.
Okay, I think it's kind of cool. There's Killbots behind me.
I like it.
Yeah, definitely.
I also have the mall, but if you don't really know the movie, the significance could be lost on you. You know,
yeah.
She's sitting in a mall.
If they're listening to our show and they don't know about Chopping Mall, they really need to watch it or stop listening. No, don't stop listening. I'm kidding. I kid. But
be careful with it.
Yeah, I know. The movie is an absolute cult classic, and to still be as relevant as it is 35 years later, that's gotta be a fantastic feeling for you.
It's how could you know that was going to happen in a gajillion trillion years? Yeah. How could you possibly know? You know, it's wild. It's wild because the first like 20 years I got teased about it more than anything else.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
So it was kind of like it was a liability actually, because A, I was teased, and B, it's like, no, we're not going to be calling that actress in for this A-list role who's the star of Chopping Mall. We're just going to not have her.
It's fun, and like nowadays, like the difference between the roles, it's crazy because like something that's not acceptable from then is acceptable now, and vice versa. So
yeah, it's really different. It wasn't that long ago where if they Googled you and you had too much horror on your Google, they were like, she has too much horror.
Yeah.
And that was not long ago. So it's weird. When I first got out to LA, I'd been on soaps for a couple of years, and I had all the tape, right? And they said she doesn't have film on herself, and I said, but I've got years of that doesn't count. And it went against you too. Oh, she's been on daytime television. Ugh.
Hmm.
So all these things that are, just because something is taboo when you start does not mean that's going to be that way. If life rolls around, it's a circle, and it doesn't stay the same.
Right.
When I first got here, if you were in films, you didn't want to go do a TV show. It was a step down.
Yeah.
And now every star in the world is trampling each other trying to get on TV because
Right.
so you just don't know, and you can't take it like that. But when you're a kid, when you're starting out, you don't think of. I don't know. In retrospect, I can see what happened, but at the time, I was just like trying to figure out what was going on. So
And you
I do know that I got kidded a lot for it.
yeah, but you also wanted the experience under your belt. So it's like, don't judge me. I would at least, you were out there, you were doing something to
Well, that's what I
increase
thought
your
too.
popularity and make moves with your career.
That's what I thought too. And somebody was chiding George Clooney at some point. What were you thinking being an Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? And he said, I was thinking about paying my rent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not all trust fund kids that can hang out until we get just the right job. You know what? I love being in shopping mall, and it's like one of the greatest things that's ever. I mean, look at this. It's to have the fan love for this movie that we're having is, what would you trade that for? Nothing.
Yeah. That trust fund thing is very interesting because, like, that's what it is. It's like a weird vibe where, it was back in the day too, and it's still prominent right now, where it's like, if you have the money to be able to kind of just live out there and just do strictly that, that's how it comes into, into play, the success part of it, if you will, or like the getting more work type deal. So
Also, it was pre-internet, so we would think, I'm doing what I do, and I'm supporting myself, and no one's ever going to see this. We didn't count on the internet. That was pre-internet. Can you believe? Is anything pre-internet? No, but it was. It was. I had a pager too.
Oh, you had a pager? Hell yeah. So what?
Oh,
What was the big changing, defining moment that brought you from Minnesota to California?
I went to New York first.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I had I'd
But
gone to
you started with the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
so before
yeah,
you
and I went to conservatory school, and rather than like stay in Minnesota, I went to conservatory school. But when I got there, I had no place to live. I was too young to get a job. No one would rent to me. I had $500, and I thought I was going to So I went to look for an apartment, and this woman, she said, I'm afraid for you. I don't know what to do. She said, I might be able to get you a roommate situation, but you haven't got a job. So, and then she said, but my friend is an agent, and she's been telling me that they're looking all over for this Midwestern Lolita, and they haven't found her. Why don't you go over there and see if she's interested in, I guess, submitting you or whatever. I went over there. The office is the size of a bathroom. It kind of looked like a porn office, honestly. And she says, all right, take your picture. I had one picture. It was like, I don't even know why. I guess but it didn't even look like me because I was all dolled up. And I was like, really looked young in real life, but this made me look like I was a model. It didn't even look like me. So I slid it under the casting director's door, and lo and behold, I got called in. I had no idea what I was doing. And when something that weird happens, it happens because you're going to get the job, because otherwise, why would the universe bother having all that stuff happen unless you're going to get it? And so I'm talking to my mom. I call her up and I go, guess what? Because I hadn't even found like a place to live yet. I was staying with somebody was out of town because he was driving the bus for the school because they were on tour with something. I was staying in his apartment until he got back, and then what? I said, I'm going to be on TV. Weirdest story. ever. I know. And so I really think that happened because I don't think I would have if I had to have it as hard as, like if I didn't get encouragement like that in the beginning, I might have thought, I don't know about this for me. I really, really always,
Your hunger to want to do it drove you.
yeah, yeah. And I just wasn't, it's like you're on a tightrope. I never looked down. I never realized what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better, you know?
Yeah. And you
It
said
can
the lady
only,
that you
it
said
can
the
only
lady that
happen when you're that young because you don't think. And, New
yeah,
York was really gritty at that point too. It was before they cleaned it up.
yeah.
How
In
old were you when you went out to New York?
1980. Well, I was not 18. So
We'll leave it at that.
let's leave it at that. But I had graduated early. And so my father was a teacher, and he taught at the high school that I went to. And then my mom just said, you know what, just go to conservatory school because I never really felt like I belonged there. And my mom, after raising all these kids and her own experience in life, just said, if you want to do something, just go do it.
Yeah.
So I think it was more her frustration with seeing things not turn out the way she'd hoped they would for everybody else that she pushed me out the door. And I remember being so homesick, like one of my first, I started shooting the show and everything. There was a payphone. I get in the payphone and I start, I want to come home. Right, so
And I can hear mom, suck it up, buttercup, stay with her and do it.
and she said, you stick it out.
It's a good mom.
I
Yeah.
did.
That's very
And look
supportive.
at you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then afterwards, as the years went by, she said, had I realized what I was letting you do, I would have never let you do that. We didn't know any better. We were from, Minnesota. Neither one of us had ever been to New York City or anything like that. We had no idea. And that's the only reason it happened. If you stop and think about what you're doing, you're toast.
Right.
Yeah,
guess.
that's very true.
Yeah, you just gotta kind of close your eyes and run. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as if, Chopping Mall wasn't enough of a cult classic. You were a part of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and there's so many people in that movie that, everybody in the world knows who they are. How was it being on set with so many people now that
Well, hon, real quickly, can we ask how you got involved? Before
Oh,
we
sure.
get in?
I
Yeah.
was in New York still, and I auditioned, and then they, how they keep calling actors back and back and back. So it finally ended up over the weekend, and they ordered food. They had me, Phoebe Cates, and Brian Backer sit and read the movie for the producers, and we went over and over and over and did the whole movie for them more than once. And I remember
wow.
Phoebe saying, "We have died. This is actors' purgatory. We don't know we're dead. That's what it is. We just have to keep auditioning."
Oh, that's
That's what it felt
hilarious.
like. We were so tired by the end of it. So I thought I probably have a pretty good chance to get the part of Stacy. I had no idea that they might have anybody here or anything like that. That they were already interested in. I'm sure that their first that they thought they were going to do Jennifer Jason Leigh, but you always need a safety. So I didn't get it after all that. And then pretty soon I got another call saying, "Do you want to go out there and play the cheerleader?" And I went, "What?" Because I always played bad girls and juvenile delinquents. The only jobs I gotten so far is I was like a really horribly pathologically evil child on Ryan's Hope. And then I also played a psychotic killer in a movie that hadn't come out yet. And that was it. So the thought that they wanted me to play a cheerleader was bizarre to me. And then guess what? So people can see things about you that you can't see about yourself, I guess, because I played 2 in a row. So
I was just going to say, it wasn't your first time being a cheerleader in a movie.
it was my first time. I wasn't
no, like, well, that was your first as a cheerleader, and then you had in Night of the Comet.
Yeah, and that the reason when the Tom Eberhardt, the writer director, said, I want somebody evil, not evil, like annoying, like that cheerleader in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And they said, the producer said, I can probably get you that cheerleader because we're with the same agency.
I love that cheerleader in Fast Times. All
Yeah.
right.
Right?
I do that. I still do that to this day. I'll do that. Like I'll be walking by myself in the mall back when there was malls, and I'll just be like, all right.
People do that to me still to this day too. All right. I go, all right. Like I could still, of course I could still, after they reminded me, I can still do it.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it at first because you just keep going, but people sit and watch it. They know it better than you do.
Yeah.
So then you go back and you pick it back up because you already did it and it came out of you, so you can get it back. But they know before you do. And people will come up and they'll say, in this scene, did you know that such and such and such and such? And I will have no idea.
Yeah.
So they know more, fans know more than we do, for sure.
It's
the other, who would think that you could ask me anything different about Chopping Mall? And yet somebody pointed out to me that we were like less than 6 feet apart from all the other people that were having sex, like it's about 6 feet behind us. And we were just like, da, da, da. That never occurred to me because obviously, other than you could see them kind of, when we were shooting that scene, they weren't back there. We shot it separately. And Tony and I and the director, we did not play it like, except for that thing, where you can hear Susie Slater go, oh God, oh God. Yeah. And I thought, you're right, the whole scene there. So, and I'd never thought.
Like you're getting to know the guy that you're on a date with, and then you got them in the back doing their thing.
And we refer to it, but the reality of it going on the entire time, I never thought of it before.
So it is kind of funny because I just rewatched it last night and I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, how awkward is that? Like if you were all shooting that role at the same time with them like pretending that they're having sex behind you and while you're trying to have a conversation with the guy that you're there on a date with.
Yeah, well, they shot that at a different part of the night, so they weren't doing that at that point. It's just, the proximity, it never dawned on me how close behind us they really were. In my mind, I guess I always thought they were like way far back, and they're not. They're not.
The COVID distance.
Right.
To go back to Fast Times real quick, how was it working with Amy Heckerling?
She was really quiet and she was very, very focused on what she was doing. And because, I'm insecure, I thought she doesn't like me. And she was a little bit busy. She had her first big studio feature film and she was a young woman. And, that didn't really occur to me how weird it was that she was a young woman directing a Universal movie.
That was a
because
big
when I started, we had a woman director on the soaps. Women held positions of, producing and positions of power within the daytime network. I didn't think it was odd. Yeah. And then later on, I found out how odd it was, but I didn't think so. But she was like me in a way. We got this opportunity and we're taking it really seriously and making the most of it. Yeah. But she was not one of those directors that was yelling all the time. She was very quiet.
She seems cool like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, very groundbreaking, How about Cameron Crowe? Got the young Cameron Crowe writer, wrote the script. Did you get any interaction with him?
Well, okay, so that's when I had to give the speech about it takes a lot of courage. Yeah. I had read the book and I based the character on the book more than anything else. And I noticed when I was learning the lines that they took the best line out. They took out, which I thought was the heart of the whole reason for the character almost was, it takes a lot of courage to get up here and do something people will make fun of. It wasn't in there. And really? So before we shot, I go up to Cameron, I go, can I put this line back in there? And he goes, what's the line? I tell him and he goes, because he was kind of like a Doonesbury character, really tall. And he goes, try it. We'll see if it's happening. He said that when he liked something, he'll go, oh, that scene was happening.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's kind of like a 70s throwback thing there for a second, but yeah. And so to me, that was the whole, that was
Yeah,
her,
it really
that was
is.
why she was putting herself out there. Um, and if you read the book in her background, they get more into who she was and everything, and probably what, if it doesn't make any sense what I'm talking about, if you read the book, you would know what I meant. But
Yeah.
so but we were all very, very serious. In order to do the cadaver scene, I went to the library and found pictures of cadavers and studied them so that I would know what I was looking at. Stuff like that.
There you
Yeah,
go.
everybody was like that though. People say, "Oh, was that a fun set?" We were all, we knew our opportunity there. We knew we were film actors, and that was, we were doing our thing. And no, there was no, it wasn't like a frat party or anything like that. It was super serious young people.
Was there like big buzz about it while you guys were shooting it? Because there was a
No,
lot of up and coming. I mean, all around up and coming, from filmmakers to
no,
cast. Nothing. Huh?
no. As a matter of fact, Amanda Wiss, who was Brad's girlfriend, and she's, Nightmare on Elm Street, all that stuff. She said, in an interview, I guess, or something, she said to me, Kelli was the only famous person on that entire set.
Wow.
I
Oh,
was
yeah.
the one that, because I was on the soap and they'd be out yelling, Kimberly, Kimberly, Kimberly. And it was embarrassing, because soaps weren't cool at the time. I was like, oh God. Hi, guys. Don't do that. Okay.
The funny
Yeah.
thing about Amanda being in that movie is, as many times as I've seen it, I didn't realize until I watched it. I rewatched it again last night and finally realized it was her.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It took me all this time, as many times as I've seen that movie, to realize it was her.
Wow.
Did you notice the small Nicolas Cage cameo in there?
Yes, that I noticed.
I think Nicolas Cage was in the running to be Spicoli at one point.
Well, that was the thing is, I was in the running to be Stacy and I ended up the cheerleader. Anthony Edwards and Nick Cage, he was Nicholas Piccoli. I mean, that's hello. He was Nicholas Coppola at the time. Yeah. He hadn't changed his name yet. And Eric Stoltz was in the running for Spicoli. And they ended up like the Surfer Dudes and Brad's friends. And I don't know about, I asked Amanda, I said, well, you were up for Stacy too, right? She goes, no, I just went in for Brad's girlfriend. That didn't happen to me. Yeah. So, but yeah, as a rule, I think that they saw people that they really liked, and
they just had a better visual of who they wanted to portray each character than the people that came in, but they still kept you all and made you a part of the film.
Yeah,
in a different aspect that actually, it just all came together beautifully.
Yeah, it was something. I had a feeling it was going to be special. I couldn't tell if it was the feel, because when I'd never been to California, I'd never been to Universal Studios, and there I was standing there watching the because I couldn't drive, so the Teamsters picked me up, or I could walk. Those were my choices. Yeah. So the Teamsters would pick me up at the crack of dawn, and I would watch the studio coming to life. I was there way too early. Hair and makeup wasn't open yet. The wardrobe people weren't even there, and I just watched it come to life with the sun coming up, and it's just total TMZ. Turner Classic Movie, not TMZ, Turner Classic Movies scene, commercial, like watching the studio come to life. It was exactly like that. Exceeded my every expectation I could have had. And there's come the wardrobes, and then the golf carts start going around, and you start to smell the breakfast burritos, and pretty soon hair and makeup get there, and you just see everything coming to life, like I said, and it was amazing. Yeah. Why did I tell you that? My point, and I did have one, was why I thought you didn't ask me. I foisted this question upon you, which was I kind of knew something was special about it, but I couldn't tell if, I just thought the movie was special, but it was also the fact that I'd never been to California before. And so the first time I was on set was the scene where Spicoli and his friends come rolling out of the van, and you can see all the smoke. Yeah. And then Brad comes in, and the car that they got was so exactly like it was described in the book that I went, the cruising vessel. And Lindsay turns around and goes, who said that? And I thought, oh no, I blew a take. You know, the first moment on set, and I'm already in trouble. And I said, it was me. And he goes, finally, some enthusiasm on this set. Now, and so I look back and I think, why did I not think that they looked at me and saw a cheerleader? But I didn't see that.
So it just played nicely. Just
Poor
they knew
Eric.
at that moment, as soon as you shouted that out, that they made the right choice.
I guess so.
Exactly. I feel bad for Eric
Everything,
Stoltz.
I'm a firm believer.
Poor Eric Stoltz. He lost Spicoli and Marty McFly, the poor guy.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
How was any interaction with Sean Penn? You know.
Oh yeah, well, because I was there early and I would sit in the hair room, and he had to come early and get, those are extensions. He didn't walk around like that. And so he had to get his hair sewn on. And I was very quiet because he was total method at that time. And you had to call him Spicoli or he wouldn't answer you and stuff like that. So I just left him alone. I figured he's really serious. I'm just going to leave him alone. And the hair lady goes, you kids should be nicer to Sean. He's a very nice boy in real life. And so then I wasn't at the wrap party because I was already back in New York, but I understand that he walked up to everybody at the wrap party and said, hi, I'm Sean. It was the first time I'd ever met Sean.
Oh, well, wow.
He was deep undercover brother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can appreciate that, though. That character was like the original, the dude, you know what I mean?
I know. I know.
Legendary. The whole film, I mean, Fast Times at Ridgemont High is one of those films that'll outlast everything, you know what I mean? Like if they decided, you know, hey, we can only pick 50 movies to send to alien life, the world's gonna end. Fast Times would be in that 50 movies. You know what I mean? Like I really do think so. I really do. That's how big of a film I think Fast Times is.
And you know, they almost didn't release it.
I know.
We don't understand this. It's not a comedy. It's not really funny. And there's an abortion in it. And maybe we should just shelve this. I remember getting a call when my friends were like, they might not even release the movie. And I was ready to walk back to California and say, you have to, that's my first big movie. It's coming out. So that's what they felt about it. Which is, you know, if everybody has a problem with something you're doing, that's a surefire sign that's probably going to be really special at one point. But I didn't know this would happen. I mean, Criterion Collection, Library of Congress. My cheerleading uniform is in a glass box at the Universal Museum.
Yeah.
Universal Studios Museum.
That's great.
Awesome.
Somebody took a picture of it. I didn't know it was there.
That's awesome.
They said, we did the Universal tour and there was your outfit with Cindy on. I said, get out of here. Yeah, it's really neat.
Did that catch with an audience right off the bat, or did it have to find its audience, take a little bit to find its audience?
Last times? I don't know.
I felt like that would have been right with the times. Like the youth would have loved that when it came out.
I think it was much more edgy than other comedies were teen comedies that were coming out. It was, you know, talked about
real stuff.
One of the things that had struck Cameron about the culture, because he went undercover at the high school.
Okay.
And he pretended to be a high school kid to do it. They were like, you know, little adults with jobs. Their concerns were their jobs and, you know, like adult stuff. They weren't even kids.
Yeah.
So, and I think that really comes through too. And so I think it probably struck a chord with people that were living like that. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't want to hear all about, you know, kids stuff because I'm worried about, I've been late to my fast food job 3 times and I might get fired. And then I mean, they were really thinking about stuff like that and he addressed it. So probably.
Yeah, he had his finger on the pulse of the youth for sure. Like a very John Hughes type vibe to it. You know what I mean?
So I kind of have a fun question for you.
Okay.
While we were researching this tonight, I read that you're a magician member at the Academy of Magical Arts.
Yes. I don't perform there though, because, okay, so what happened? My now husband, when we were dating, he was a magician when he was little, um, and he was writing the magazine. It's called Genie Magazine, and it's a big, big deal in magic. That's the thing about that. You can be the most like fall down dead famous person in magic, and they'll all, plots when you walk in, and we don't have any idea who they are. Other than like if you're, Chris Angel or something like that. It's this wonderful society of like incredibly smart people that are kind of neurotic, and it's just great. But I felt like because he would drag me around with him, and then he would interview the magicians, and they magicians won't talk shop in front of a muggle.
Right.
Just won't. And so I didn't want to be a muggle. I didn't want to be the girlfriend. I wanted to belong. And so I auditioned, and they made me audition 3 times. And I'm glad they
Wow.
did, because by the time I got in, I felt like I felt like I did,
Earned it.
yeah, I'd earned it, and that they had to respect that, because I'm
Right.
sure people were going, well, it's Dan's girlfriend. Of course she's going to get it. We didn't want any of that. Although those first 2 times I didn't make it were really humiliating. But all those magicians, they were so generous. I've never seen actors do this, but they're so generous with their time. Like people that would be considered in magic, like the cream of the crop, would just say, Kelly, come here, let me help you with that. And you see them, not just me, you see them do it with anybody. Somebody would sit down with somebody who's a very accomplished magician, and everybody knows who they are, and they'd show them tricks and stuff like that. And when they go around, they'll hit each other and say, I'm going to be in Montreal. Where's the magic in Montreal? Where should I go?
Yeah.
We don't have that, you know? Um, so it's a really interesting community, but I do not have the hubris to think that I can perform, because those people have been working on it every day, some of them since they're like 5 years old,
Right.
to be that good. I
So
don't
what
have,
was the trick that got you in?
oh gosh, well, every time I did different things, because
Yeah.
they don't really tell you um, like what they're gonna pass you for or not, because they don't want to be attached to it. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can't say, well, I did everything you asked me to do, because if you didn't, they just they know if they think you can perform or what. But
Yeah.
what got me in was a simple little, I think, I mean, you'd have like 5 or 6 tricks ready to go. And I kept shifting them out. Because, well, first of all, I started to see where, something was in too much danger of not working. or, or I didn't have the skill in my hand, like I said, they've been doing it since they were little kids every single day for hours. And, even as an adult now, if I wanted to do that as a grown up, I don't have time to put in to practice hours and hours a day. So it was not in the cards for me to become a magician.
No pun
Although
intended.
Rob Zabrecki, he was a punk rocker, and he's a magician now, and he became a magician as an adult. So it can be done. It's not that it can't be done. It's that I didn't do it. So anyway, in order to be, and you know what? When I became a member, it was different. You get to go in the members library where all the magic is. It's just like Hogwarts, I swear to God.
Yeah.
All the
That's
magic
so
is
cool.
that you don't get to go in if you're just a muggle. And people just accept you differently, and it was worth it. I'm really glad I did that. I really am.
Yeah. Now, and when they have respect for you, they share all their stuff with you. You say, right?
Yes.
It's cool.
Mhm.
Now, what do you think the difference is when you say when comparing the acting, you say it's very different. You think the acting's more of a like, not to say ego thing, but more of like you're kind of your legacy is like your body of work, whereas in with the magic, the legacy is to keep that life like alive, keep that world alive, because magic's probably would come down a little bit, you'd say, right? Like as part people entering into the world of it, right? What do you think?
Um,
I could be
come,
wrong.
what do you mean, as in
Like,
come?
yeah, like are there as many people trying to get into the magic world nowadays as like in the past, you think? Or no?
Yeah, well, it kind of had a renaissance there for a while. It's hard to say now after a year of COVID. I don't know what's happening with anything. It had to shut down.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Everybody was scared that, it's got to come back. It can't go under because,
Yeah.
it's the club. People from all over the world say, all my life, I heard about the Magic Castle when I was little. And it was my goal to see the Magic Castle. And now I'm performing there. And, it's like a big deal. And I live walking distance from it. So it's kind of weird. It's a really, really big deal for everybody. And, um, so when you go
Kind
there,
of heartbreaking right now to see the fact that it can't be doing what it would normally do because of COVID.
Yeah.
right? Well, it's not open. I mean, yeah, a lot of magicians have taken things online just like everybody else.
Right.
One benefit of being online is the camera can go and see. So it's looking like if the
Down
magic,
on
I
you.
can look down at you. Yeah, so you can actually see that angle, which people don't get to see. The
Yeah.
close-up gallery is the most fun because you're like this far away and you can't. I mean, they're just fooling you because you think, well, I'm so close. How am I gonna how am I gonna miss what they're doing? And
Yeah.
yet they fool
You
you. It's
still
really
do.
funny.
Now with
And
the
like literally, if you blink, you're gonna miss something.
Yeah, but you're like because it's a small room and it's like this and the magician is and then they probably have like two people up there. You can reach out and touch them. You could touch the table. If
yeah.
you wouldn't, but you could. And how can they fool you from that close?
Right.
Um,
I've
is it?
always yeah. I've always been very curious with the magic thing and the culture of it. Like, is it do you think there's like a dark art at hand, or do you think it's just like the skill of like the trick of hand, this being a master of the trick of hand? What do you think it is? I know
It's
you probably can't go too deep, but
it's everything.
yeah,
The skill is one thing. Um, it's reminding people of that wonder in life.
yeah,
If you have that, and it's not just performing, it's also person. Like you asked me what I finally won with, and I had this very simple thing. It was a Scrabble thing that my husband and I found together. It was a really simple sleight of hand, and but we came up with something funny for me to say at the end, and they all laughed. And then I was a performer
yeah.
to them. Then they're like, "Yeah, okay, she could,
You
she's
got the
not just
fun
up there
left.
like trying to do tricks." Yeah, she knows. And so, and then I did kind of find out what they wanted because an older guy said, "Well, wait a second, she didn't do any sleight of hand." And everybody else went, "Yes, she did. That's what we were laughing about."
Yeah,
So that is one thing, although they never tell you that. And maybe it's not anymore. You just don't know because they want it to be, they want you or they don't. They want,
yeah,
and I understand that because it could get icky, if they just didn't think you were good, even though you were doing everything that they did ask, on paper.
So in that respect, it's the same as getting a role in a movie.
Yeah, it'd be like me saying, I don't know why, I should have gotten that part. I knew the lines.
right.
Yeah. I dressed the part, I knew the lines, I got the blocking, I should have had the part. That's not how it works. Well, it's not how it works there either. So, yeah, yeah.
I
I think,
always think of Lord of Illusions. Whenever I think of magicians, I think of the Lord of Illusions movie, and like them all sitting around the table. And Anthony Schwalva, I think his name was, where the guy like calls him out for having the New York accent that he's trying to hide.
yeah, yeah. Well, we have somebody there who's from, I mean, that's the thing is you create a persona. We have a
Yeah,
couple of people who have, and they're that person. They're not pretending to be somebody that they're not,
yeah,
but they're not the person that they started out with, nor do they have the same name. But you do develop a persona, and you're supposed to have a character. I
stage
mean,
name.
who wants to watch just a regular person sit there and do magic? You have to come up with a character. That was one thing I was thinking of doing when I was thinking I might perform too. Was who am I going to be? You know, and sometimes and that doesn't have to be a big character. It could be somebody that just comes across as a normal person, but they're not really the normal person. They're that person that they are on stage.
Yeah,
There's a lot to it. I mean, it's an ancient art.
right.
So they found the first cups and balls thing. It's like caveman time. when they started doing that. But it's all the sleight of hand and reminding people that there are things in the world that are magic and that we don't understand, and that it's good to have your brain fooled, because it's deadly to walk around thinking we know everything all the time. It's deadly for our creativity and our life and our, keeping our hearts open and everything. And I took a yoga teacher of mine, and just here's the thing is, we bring other people there. Forget performing there, even if I'm not performing, and watching their face. That's the best thing about being a member of the Magic Castle is you watch their face and they're just like a little kid.
Right.
It's amazing. And one thing that's bad about it too is once you know how something's done, you know how it's done.
Yeah, it's like film.
I wish I didn't know how that was done now, because
Yeah.
everybody's loving it,
Movies.
And I know how it's
same
done.
way. Yeah.
But we still have, you can see if it was done poorly or not. I mean, sometimes you can see that something really messed up. And you like just go, oh no. And you're amazed that other people didn't notice it, but they didn't. So
Yeah.
Your husband is such a great guy. Did
Thank
you
you.
did you and him ever team up and like do a performance there together?
We didn't. We ran an improv class there together, and we ran we have conventions. They're magic conventions. They're nothing like our conventions, our horror conventions, but they're kind of this in a weird way. They're more presentational. It's much more structured. We ran an improv course there for magicians, because it's really, a lot of times people get really stuck in they call it patter, the patter of what they're saying.
Mhm.
And if you can make them more present and spontaneous, then their act really comes alive. And it's to encourage people to, you don't have to be stuck to the script that you learned. You can
Right.
talk to people and flesh it out. And so that was fun, but no, we never performed together. We should.
It's not too
But
late.
Exactly. You got plenty of time to practice right now.
It's true. We could have practiced this whole year, couldn't we?
It's true.
How has COVID affected any upcoming projects for you? Were you in the middle of anything when it all started that you had to put on delays?
We were, but it's fundraising stage. It's not like we had to close down a set, which is great. But 3 films got pushed back. One of which I'm afraid might not happen now because of this, which is a bummer. But stand in line, Kelly. That's happening to everyone. One script came along because of COVID, which is cool, and it came out of it. And one, probably we would have had to develop it a little bit more and do it this year anyway. So it was just, everything that we thought we were going to do, we didn't do. So it was bizarre, actually. It was really odd. I mean, we were all, because that's very much our thing. It's not just our job, it's our life, and I mean, it's our whole lifestyle and everything. And we're just like, who are we? Who are we? We no longer exist. So,
I know. We've been having conversations about how when we have to go back out into the real world and start interacting with one another again, we're gonna all be at a loss because we've all only been able to communicate by either Zoom or telephone, and about how, as much as the internet can be annoying or you're on it too much or whatever, I'm kind of thankful for the fact that we have the internet
oh, I
just why
know.
we're right now, because it would have been so much harder to keep in touch with everybody if we had to worry about just keeping
Been
in contact by
impossible.
telephone.
Would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, because a lot of us are actually secretly kind of introverted and not necessarily prone to a lot of wanting to get online and be performing all the time, social media. We had to.
Yeah.
I was forced to learn how to do this, because how else was I going to talk to anybody? And I probably would have thought, I should really learn how to do that stuff online at some point, and never done anything. Well, I had at some point is now.
That's kind of why we started doing the Zoom too, because we had just been audio up until, I think we didn't start even doing the video wise with Zoom until like December.
Yeah.
So we were literally, because Maddie and I haven't seen each other in over a year now at this point now.
No.
So, you know, that the only interaction him and I even have is by Zoom doing the show. So like
Yeah.
the first time we get back together, it's gonna be like hugs all around, and then, you know, just be nice to have kind of a normal show episode where we can actually all be together.
Yeah. Yeah. All the things we took for granted, you know. I mean,
And that's the funny thing. You don't realize I didn't realize how much I took for granted until this started.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost like Night of the Comet for real.
Well, you know, everybody was saying that to me. I was getting all these pictures of the empty streets and stuff. Like, you know, everybody wrote to me and said, "This is like Night of the Comet."
Yeah.
And they weren't wrong. You know, it was. It was kind of. I mean, two people in my life I still see, but everybody else I haven't seen in a year.
Yeah.
You know, my husband being one of them, and another friend that I have that I help out there. So, you know, I was always kind of part of the house in a way. But so isn't that weird to think?
So you've pretty much been battening down the hatches at home. You
Oh
haven't.
yes.
Have you done any traveling now
No.
that
No.
vaccines out and all that?
I have I'm not eligible for it yet, but I'm around older people that are high risk, and so no, because I'm not really. It's not that I'll get it that I'm worried about. It's that I'll give it to somebody else. I would die if I did that. I might as well just die myself. You know, I'd feel. So no, I've been very, very careful the whole time for my friends, and also I finally, because all of those people that were high risk, they've all got the vaccine now. I'm like, do. So, but somebody in our community actually helped me get a test, and then I got some documentation where my friend said she's in my home, you know, with food and you know, and so
Like
that's
a
going to count.
caregiver to kind of give you the push to get it.
Well, that's going to count, because the problem is on the internet when it says, do you do this? Do you do that? There's nothing for what I did. So I couldn't check anything. I couldn't click on anything. I had to tell a real human being what it was.
Yeah.
You know, because if you heard what it was, you'd say, of course she should have it. But there was no way to describe it to a computer.
Right.
So anyway, I'm going to have my first one on Thursday.
You're beating me to it, and I work in healthcare.
Really?
Yeah, I've had it scheduled twice, and both times they told me I wasn't eligible for it yet for whatever reason. I had gotten an email from my employer stating, "Oh, we're doing it on this date and this date," and both times, you know, because when they asked you, "Is this your first or your second shot?" And I'm like, "This will be my first," and they were like, "Okay, that's great. You know, here's your time. We'll see you then." And then the day before, I got an email saying, "Oh, this clinic's only for people getting their second dose." So I'm like, whatever. I've managed to, you know, despite the brain probe several times, not to get it. But you know, it would just be nice just to not have to have that doubt anymore.
Yeah. Not that anything much is going to change. We're still going to have to be careful.
Yeah.
Exactly,
You know?
because there's so many different strains of it now.
Yeah, we're still going to have to do the mask thing and the social distancing thing. And, you know, there's a part of me, I'm sorry, I know I'm a final girl. I don't want to sound like a chicken shit, but I'm not ready to go sit in the movie theater with a bunch of people sneezing and stuff. I'm just not ready for that. You know, I kind of feel like, and also that I had an introverted side to me that no one ever sees. I kind of like being at home, you know, and so I'm worried that I got weird now, and that when I go back out, I'm going to have to re-socialize myself.
I understand that struggle more than you realize. Like usually for me, the extent of my going out, even prior to COVID, like was an occasional karaoke night, or you know, hanging out with Maddie doing a show, or going to a convention. Other than that, I was home. So being home doesn't bother me. It's not like we don't have anything to watch, you know.
Right.
There's plenty to.
I'm so addicted. We were doing this before COVID, but I'm so addicted to like pounding down like 3 or 4 movies a night. It's so fun. I love it.
Have you binged any good TV series or
What did we,
whatnot since you?
we're just getting through, yes, we did. We're getting through the end of Tell Me Your Secrets right now. We did, oh God, what didn't we do? We did, I can't, of course, I can't think of any of their names right now, but we did them all. Yeah. Like name one.
Queen's Gambit
Oh
on
yeah.
Netflix.
Oh yeah. 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 We loved that. I thought it was spectacular.
I'm falling in love with the young lady that played that character.
Yeah.
She
Anna,
like, uh, yeah,
Anna's
her,
really
her
good.
roles have already been so diverse, from being in Split and Glass, and then she's got the New Mutants, and then she goes and does the Queen's Gambit, and it's like you see a whole completely different side of her acting abilities in that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
like hopefully she sticks it out and has a career like you that expands over like 3 decades
I know,
of films and shows and whatnot.
there's a guy who is an extra often at on Ryan's Hope, and in New York, the unemployment line for actors is that it's kind of like a lounge because people like they finish a show like a Broadway show or something, and then they go get it's so they all meet each other. It's much more of a like a green room almost.
Yeah.
So
Coffee date.
this is what he's referring to. Anyway, a lot of those guys at one point, probably were in jail, probably did have something to do with crime and stuff. And then they came out and they started playing these parts. And some of them like just as extras or day players or whatever, they put all that because the flavor of what you need for that world that you're trying to create in the movie. He said, if you just don't quit in this business, you just sit there long enough, they're going to call your name, your tag, they'll call your number, your tag will come up. You just got to wait it out. Just don't leave the room.
Right.
And
Persistent,
even as a kid, I thought, well, you know what? That you really boil it down. That's true. Something's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Just don't
Persistent.
die.
Yeah. Just don't die. It's true.
At what
So
point in your
dying can be a real good career move too. It shoots you right up to the top of IMDb and stuff.
For a
I'm
week
sick
at
of it.
least, yeah.
It's so terrible.
I was gonna ask you, at what point in your career did you realize, oh wow, this is working out for me, and everybody, that you realized people were starting to recognize you?
Well, I got recognized from the soap because it was national television, so it was right away.
Yeah.
Right away, people would say, "I hate you," and that's but as a compliment. Oh my God, I hate you. It's really funny. It's really fun. And then I had a cover of People magazine come out. They did all of us girls, and I said to the guy, the newsstand was down, on the street. I lived in a building, and then the newsstand was right there. So I walk past him every day. I go, "Look, that's me," and he goes, "It is not." It is not. He never did believe me. It was funny.
Wow, that's so funny.
It's great.
What do you think is your reason for the longevity you've had in this career?
I never gave up. I mean, I was just determined. It didn't matter if I never worked again, if everyone thought I sucked, if I had no friends, if I had no money, it didn't matter. I was not giving up. And that's the reason why I'm sitting here. I just was not giving up. Because, I had like a really good encouragement when I first started, but then just like everybody else, there are times when I just felt like this, I'm never going to get another job again. I can't even get in the door. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares. It's like you go through those. And then all of a sudden, something great happens out of the blue, like you couldn't have planned for it. I mean, you can do footwork and try to figure out what the next probably right thing to do is, but you never do know. And then something comes and smacks you in the back of the head that you didn't even see coming. And you go, see, if I'd known this was going to happen, I would not have been so miserable and scared that whole time. And of course, that job ends and you're miserable and scared right back where you started. Joe Mantegna, I did this movie with him, and he said, I finally stopped worrying about it when I realized they're always going to need an actor like my type. and I'm going to work, and I'm just going to stop work, that I'll never work again after this. He said, I just quit doing that. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you could just quit doing something. You don't have to do that. You could just stop doing that. So I try to do that.
Did you meet
Yes, I just,
Tom Eberhart before
no,
casting or during the process? Okay.
no, I met him before. I mean, while
Like
before we
during?
shot the movie, but I met him in casting, not before. And I didn't meet any of those people before.
Yeah. And that was just answering a casting call type. That's how that came about.
Well, Tom had asked for the annoying cheerleader in Fast Times,
Oh
but they,
yeah.
but that was, I mean, that was one thing. But then also, they wanted to use Kathy from The Last Starfighter. She was coming off that, and Tom thought that they had to have somebody that looked like sisters, and so it's a funny thing because I auditioned for Nightmare on Elm Street, and she auditioned for Sam, and she got the franchise. But it would have been, I mean, talk about two different movies, but her coloring and everything is much more like Kathy's. And everybody just went, no, you know what? It's like in My Man Godfrey, you know, um, Carol Lombard and I forget the name of the actress who played her sister. They look completely different, and that's what works. And that's what we're gonna do. And
Yeah.
then the producer, in a real Me Too moment, said, yeah, there's something in this movie for everyone. So we didn't know it was going to be a Me Too thing. You're not supposed to say stuff like that, but he did. So, but that is opposites. I'm actually kind of work better in film. Now, when you watch television, like I watch it Law and Order, and I'll go, wow, that look at that casting. That could really be his kid. It really impresses me when they do that. But it's not as necessary somehow on film,
Yeah.
and it's kind of better to have the contrast. In fact, I heard a story about one movie where the coloring of the people, they kind of looked enough alike that they were afraid people were going to think they were brother and sister instead of lovers.
Hmm. Interesting.
Well, people,
Yeah, that's something I never ever
You don't
would have
think
picked
about
up
stuff like that.
on.
Man.
yeah, well, you never would unless you had to have this conversation like I'm having about Kathy and I not looking anything. And I said, we look nothing alike. And Kathy's trying to, she goes, no, we could. I said, Kathy, we look nothing alike. I'm sorry. We're two different species. And that's when we got something in this movie for everyone.
Yeah.
Like I could see you being sisters with a movie with Amanda Weiss.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
could see all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Barbara and who else? People always used to tell me that I looked like Rebecca De Mornay. I
Yeah.
did a whole talk show with somebody one time. And she was also a guest. And when we got done, she said, why are they, she said, someone call you Kelly. At this whole time, I thought you were Rebecca De Mornay. I said, no, I'm Kelli Maroney.
I mean, now that you say that, I can
It's
kind of
the profile.
I can see it too. Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
profile.
Yep.
Not in front, but from the side.
The side view. Yep. You can definitely. I can understand that. But could be worse. They could have. They could have
It could be a
compared you to
lot
somebody
worse.
else.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
I'm
It could
often
be a
taken
ton
for
worse.
Stamos. Yes.
It could be so much worse.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
How did it come about that you were on Playboy TV on that Halloween episode?
Oh, so sexy, it's scary. That was fun.
Yeah.
How did I get on that thing? Somebody called me and invited me.
Did you
Oh,
have
okay. So there's a guy who's kind of in our community. He wrote a book about being, at the Oscars, they have they have people that are your guest, that like they walk around with you and stuff that um, it's it's sort of like your date, but it's there's nothing gross about it, but that's who you're sitting with.
Yeah.
If you're okay, so he was one of those for for some of the ladies, and he wrote a book about it. And I met he sort of dabbled in our. I think he was going towards being a director, or a writer, or both, something like that. He called me and said he had put that together or something, and I'd never met Jeffrey before, and I just love him. He's so sweet. don't know if you know him, Jeffrey Reddick. He's the one who did who did the Final Destination movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one we haven't met yet.
Well, I didn't know he was on this on a soap. See, all three of us. Was Lisa Wilcox on a soap too?
She could have
I
been.
don't. I don't
May have
know.
been, but she is Nightmare on Elm. She is related with the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, which because she was at Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
Big on.
yeah. But and that's how we all end up on any of this stuff. If somebody calls us, you know, and they wanted to do something that was kind of flirty and stuff for Halloween. Now, what they did do is we didn't see any as Joe Bob would say nakedity. We didn't see anything naked. They shot that after we were gone, and they did say there's nudity in this show, but we can give you a copy of it if you want it, and you won't see any nudity in the show.
There you go.
I didn't ever get a copy, but yeah, we didn't care. I mean, I suppose maybe I could have cared or something. I didn't care.
Yeah.
It's like you're all adults. It's
Life's too short to care.
Yeah,
That's what I say.
yeah, yeah. No, why would I care?
Hell yeah.
I mean, as we've already established, what's a big no-no at one point in life in your career is like perfectly okay and even welcome at another stage of your career.
Right.
It's whatever is in vogue right now. It might be that being naked is, oh no, you can't be naked, and then it's fine later. Oh no, you can't be on a soap. We don't want you after that. It's fine now. Oh, too much horror. Horror is hot now. I mean, it's all going to change. It's just the world keeps spinning around.
Wait for that moment.
Mm-hmm. So you just don't. You have to just do what feels right for yourself, as you're progressing, and don't worry about things like that. But that will change.
Yeah.
The only thing that really won't change is being true to yourself. Even if you change your mind about what you're doing, just doing what you think is right for you is always going to be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Even though the rest of the world might think, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
They might be right too, but but even so,
usually going with your gut instinct leads to the best things.
Yeah, and it's hard too. It's hard to for me sometimes. I go, is that really my gut instinct or is that my neurosis talking? I mean, is that really my gut, or is that, if it sounds suspiciously like fear, then I don't listen to it.
Yeah.
So that sounds a little bit like chicken shit to me. Don't do it that way.
I love the fact of how real you are. Like, it's like you're a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Like everybody within the horror genre, like people love. There's such a stigma with the horror genre, and it's like if people just realized how it's a movie, and the people that are portraying those characters aren't those characters. Don't judge based on a role that you played. That's the whole point of it.
Well, the thing is, in any genre, I mean, if people don't know you or don't hear you in real speak as yourself, that's all they know you as. They can't help but judge you as that. They've never seen you any other way. But what we have in our community, no other community has it. Like, you don't find it. I would say you don't find it in romantic comedies or historical dramas. They don't have conventions for that stuff. It's a community that's really alive, and it's tied to, we're tied to each other on an emotional level that you don't see in other fan bases. We're really lucky. I think it's really special. I mean, that's where you want to be, I would think. That's where I want to be.
That's about the only thing I'm waiting for to be able to do again, is start going to conventions again, because they are so much fun. You meet so many awesome people, you make such great connections, and then it's a good thing that you do make those connections, especially with the last year, because otherwise I probably would have lost it by now if I hadn't made so many connections with people.
I know. I was almost on my way to Canada when they shut everything down. And
that would have been awful.
And I was afraid that what if they shut down the border and I couldn't get home?
Yeah.
That happened to some people, not Canada, but And so the guy who booked her in the show said, I'm not going anywhere that I was planning to be. I'll tell you that much. And
Yeah.
so sure enough, the government came and shut that convention down for them. It was like the first week that they shut down.
I
It was
remember that.
scary. It was scary too. It was like boom, 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 boom. Like all the doors just shut at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had press passes for a local Comic-Con, and I think Maddie and I, because again, that was when everything had, had just hit the fan, and literally up until like maybe 3 days prior to the convention supposed to be starting, is when they finally decided to cancel the convention and
Yeah.
reschedule. And him and I were going back and forth. Should we go? Are we crazy enough? Are we
I
going to do this?
I remember all week it was
Yeah.
going back and forth. Should we just not go? Should we just not go? And then like 3 days before they canceled it.
Yeah.
So you feel that weight lifted off your shoulder, like, okay,
Well, it
good.
was
I'm glad you guys canceled this, and
it,
we don't feel bad for not going.
it was
Right.
it was one of those weird conventions where like the big celebrity was the janitor that like cleans up at the end of the night. So like it wasn't quite worth risking getting sick and dying over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, nothing is, actually, doesn't matter who's there.
No, I hear you.
Because you think about it, I mean, it's packed. It gets really hot in there. People
Yeah.
are breathing all over each other. Let's face it.
Right. Right.
It's not. It's like if you were trying to get COVID, that would be a good place to go.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how they're going to do that. Because the weekend before, it just so happened I had been at Horror Realm with Carolyn Williams and Tom Savini and everybody else, and so we already had the hand sanitizer. At that point, they're still saying we didn't have to wear masks, but they were wrong. Yes, we had this before. At first they thought you don't really need to do that, but then they realized that that's a main thing you should be doing. We had that, and I went, well, how am I gonna? Because the big thing is people want to hug you and they want to put their arms around you, and I mean, how's that going to work? I just went ahead and
Right.
did it, and
That's a
gave
big
them a
part.
whole bunch of hand sanitizer afterwards.
Yeah.
And I joked to the woman. I said, you don't have any cases yet, right? And she goes, no, we don't have it here yet. If we're going to get it. And I said, well, we have it in Los Angeles. I probably brought it.
Oh no.
You shouldn't say stuff like that, because by the time we left, they did have it there. It wasn't us that brought it, I'm sure, but they did. They were starting to see cases by the time we left. That's how fast it was going.
I've always felt hand sanitizer should have always been a key ingredient at conventions from the get-go of conventions.
Yeah,
I
know a lot. I've always had it in my little kit, always.
In any large,
yeah, you have to have I call it the con crud bag.
right?
You have the con crud.
Yeah.
I have a con crud bag, and then Tylenol, hand sanitizer, handy wipes, anything that you could possibly need to keep yourself from getting sick over the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, no, I have it in my bag too.
Yeah, for sure. Within any large group of people, there will always be a small percentage of people that wouldn't care about passing on something or getting crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't know. I mean, you don't know who's. I remember one convention where we were that somebody had tried to come in with a weapon.
Yeah, I believe it. We
and
had
they got stopped. We never heard about it, but I heard about it later. What did you say, Matt?
Somebody brought a machete to one of the conventions we had. I think they were going to have Kane Hodder sign it, but I think that it was still an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a machete. I have a machete signed by Kane.
Well, Kane sells
them. Lucky. Yeah, but he's not allowed to sell them anymore because of the fact that they're live weapons now. So, it's like you can't have people coming in with something or even purchasing something inside, because you're still going to have to risk that chance of somebody, going postal and doing something with it.
You just don't know. I mean, you just never know what's going to... Listen, if they can go postal in a grocery store, they can sure go postal at a horror convention. I mean, it's like, that's where you probably would beforehand.
Maybe more so.
Yeah. Well, Kathy and I, there's this really super cute rubber, like it wasn't as big as, but an Uzi, and we would each sign one barrel.
Yeah.
And I'd send the other one. It was adorable. We can't carry those around. They won't let us on the plane with them. you know, and also I got to tell you, you know, the picture of me that people, that's one that everybody wants, the one with the cheerleader with an Uzi.
Yeah.
Um, given all these school shootings, I pulled it off my website for a while. I put it back on because I thought, but when it first started to happen, it made me sick to think that
Yeah.
somebody was going to get that idea from me.
Right.
And then I realized it has, you know, for various
There's a
reasons.
lot more going on than them seeing
I
a
think
picture.
the people that end up doing that stuff, I think they're gonna do it whether the music or movies tell them, or like the dog across the street tells them to do it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a mental thing.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
hear you for sure. Out of
yeah.
respect to family and stuff, I hear you. I catch that.
Yeah. No, Instagram took that picture because it's obviously a gun.
Yeah.
And they said, we don't do overtly sexual or violent images. And that was that picture. It was like, okay.
They get
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you look like you're gonna use it on somebody.
What's that?
Because you look like in a cheerleading uniform that you were about to use it on
Oh, yeah.
somebody.
And I think that one was actually was the rubber one. I'm not even sure that's the real one in the picture. I don't know. We had rubber ones, and then when you had to really see the gun, they threw in real Mach 10s. But we didn't always have real Mach 10s. And it wasn't even. I think it was more like a facsimile of one because they're heavy. Well, first of all, we trained on the Uzis, and then we couldn't. The whole line, Daddy would have gotten us Uzis. Was Tom was pissed because he wanted the Uzis. It was important to him, and they tried to save money by getting Mach 10s. And so that's why we were making fun of him. And Kathy says it's practically designed. You know, they jam, and so, and it's true, they do jam, and they were jamming. And he said, we're never going to get this movie shot because they jam, and they did. And so that's what he said. He said next it jammed, and he said next time that happens, I'm not going to cut. Just say something about it. And I went, like what? Because I was afraid to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And he said, say, and he came up with that line. Daddy would just say, this is the problem with these things. Daddy would have gotten us Uzis. And then you just do what you want to, just walk off and discuss or whatever. And that's what we did. And it was because it was that day, it was jamming so bad, we couldn't get through, you know, 2 lines of dialogue without it being jam, 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 jam. We were losing our minds.
Yeah.
And that's where that came from. And, you know, that's why people seem to like that line so much, is you can tell when something came out of a real thing that was happening. You just, you might not think, oh, that's a real thing that happened, but it's something that catches your attention more so.
Yeah, I hear guns jamming is a huge issue on sets that, you know, they don't even realize. Like a lot of the scenes you'll see in films and like cut together is just like the small, you know, 5-second clip that they could catch of it working, just redone over itself. You know what I mean? I had a quick question about Chopping Mall. Keeping with that theme, was there, like with the robots, was there a lot of wait time on those robots to wait for them to do what they got to do, or no?
We had no wait time at all. We shot in like 3 weeks. They didn't close the mall. We had to wait for the mall to close and everyone to go home. Then we ran in there, we shot all night, and we had to have everything back together again for the stores to open in the morning. So no, there was no wait time.
Very Dawn of the Dead of you guys.
Yeah. But the thing was that one was remote control. I mean, and they also had like the hands and the head that would go, you know, they could cheat that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
So, but no, everybody was so organized. I couldn't get over that they were putting everything back the way it was to open them. That's a Roger Corman crew. There's nothing that phases them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could destroy Los Angeles and in the morning they would have it back together again. That's how they're trained.
Yeah.
Nothing phases them. It's really something to think about, you know, because we were purposefully destroying everything in our path that they would let us.
Yeah. There's a movie with Tom Selleck as a cop fighting its robots, and it's the perfect double feature with Chopping Mall. I forget the name of that movie right now, but perfect double feature.
I don't think I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, great. It was right around that time too. Yeah. I figured, you know, that a very professional team making the effects, of course, and the robots, not giving them hard times, but just the technology of the times and working with it. If there was a lot of, you know, holdups, whether it doesn't go in the right direction, you know, off the track or something.
Well, that kind of stuff happened. It
Yeah,
didn't, it didn't happen like in excess to where it would shut down production while we waited.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure, it happened. I mean, if you got if a guy's got a remote control that he's trying to wield a killbot around with, yeah, that's gonna get messed up for sure.
Yeah.
Just saying it, oh, that's messing up. Yeah, it's just kind of a given.
Yeah.
But
Has there ever been talk of maybe a chopping mall too? Because I
yeah,
know that it could work. You know what I mean?
well, there's so many cool ideas now with
Yeah.
drones and where things have come. Um, I've heard recently some really clever ideas. There's one um, that I hope we get to do,
Yeah.
but it's got a pin in it right now, which means they say we're going to put a pin in it, or we put a pin in you, and that means that you're still on our minds, but we pinned you to the bulletin board, which means you're
Right.
actually not.
Yeah.
um, but it's out. I mean, they could conceive. We almost shot a proof of concept. Chuck Sereno updated the music.
I love the sound. I was gonna comment on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the soundtrack makes it. He upgraded it to 2020,
yeah.
and it says Chopping Mall 2020. And then Tony and I were going to do they had something. They asked us for our availability if we would do something, and we said yes. And then nothing. We never ended up doing it, and I don't know exactly what happened, but we're ready to go if they are.
Yeah, Chuck's music is incredible. I have the soundtrack. Anybody that collects vinyl out there, there's a great vinyl release of it. And
Mhm.
now is the time to do Chopping Mall too, because nobody's going to the malls, so you could easily get it. They'll probably pay you to shoot it there.
Well, there's so many abandoned malls. I've
Yeah,
always thought. I mean, I've been seeing pictures of them for years, and just thought, why doesn't somebody go in that abandoned mall and shoot like mad?
yeah. Has Jim ever expressed interest in a sequel?
Yeah,
Hell yeah. See, the time's come. And now is the time of like crowdfunding. What's your take on crowdfunding? I think that more
he'll
people
never.
should.
He'll
You're not
never
a
do it.
fan?
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
Old school people are just never gonna do that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's tricky. It's tricky.
yeah, no. For a long time, just Roger Corman owned it, and he had a death grip on it, and there was no
Yeah.
T-shirts. There were no. I mean, I saw some adorable killbots being made. That I mean, one of them was about up to my knees, or
Yeah.
like maybe a little taller. I wanted that thing so bad. It was so detailed, and it was on a remote control, and its head turned. I have to have that thing. The guy
Yeah.
only made one because he wasn't allowed to, and there's other little there's an action figure of me, and there's an action, and I've got my flare too, which I
Yeah,
thought was a
yeah,
nice
that's
touch,
cool.
and the killbots. But we weren't allowed to do anything. And then there's a rule now, which is why things are easing up. Now Lionsgate owns the movie mostly, but the original creators of the movie, like in the 80s, get 10% of it back. So Jim and Steve have 10% of it back.
Yeah,
And Tom Eberhart has 10% of it back,
that's cool.
which they had used to have nothing. Now, what can you do with 10%? But it's better
Something.
than a poke in the eye.
Right.
Um,
No, they'll
so
always own that, right? Like the way that goes is even when they pass away, that goes to their family, right? Their estate, I think, or something like that.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I'm glad. I always like hearing when the filmmakers get the rights back to their film. I love hearing that because it's such a horror story that they lose it to begin with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there were so many horror stories in the 80s that it makes your head spin.
Yeah.
Everybody got so screwed so many times, like including those two movies, the guys that made them,
Yeah.
nada. And so it's good to know that. I think in order for them to ease up and give somebody 10% of back, you know how bad it was. Because
Right.
if there's any way they could get around that, if they were any way to defend what had been done, they probably would have, but they can't defend what was done.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the whole time too where when digital stuff came in and all this stuff, you'd have somebody would own the rights to the soundtrack, and somebody would own the rights to the DVD, and somebody would own the rights to the film itself, and nobody knew. The rights would be all over creation, and nobody would know who had what.
Yeah.
That there was another um, re,
Like too many chiefs, not enough Indians to know what was going on.
Oh,
too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Well, a few things were just getting sold left and right, and nobody knew that it was important. We didn't know. They didn't yet know how they should be selling it off, but they were going to do a remaster of Night of the Comet. Same thing. Some of those songs, the guy was like running around chasing people, trying to figure out who owned what song and where they were, and so it would take somebody like a Lionsgate, or in Night of the Comet's case, an MGM, to buy them, and this. There's so, then they will find it, but just regular people running around, you'd never find it.
Yeah, music's a weird thing. Like there's a Chilean director, Alejandro Jodorowsky, that a lot of art house films, and his whole you could barely get his body of work forever because of the music copyrights. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, horrifying stuff.
And stuff that we never think about when we're, that never crosses our minds. It gets to legal, and you're talking. It sounds like they're talking about a whole different movie than we're talking about when it gets to legal. But that happened to my soap opera. Like, there's 2 years that they can't run anywhere because they don't have the rights to the music, and it's ABC.
I think Married with Children has an issue with one of their theme songs at the beginning like that.
Who? What?
Married with Children.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I think the first season has like a weird cut, like the intro. I don't know why they don't chop the intro song out of it and just, what I mean? But yeah. Right. And I had a Roger Corman question to go back to that thing. Do you think with no T-shirts and stuff like that, do you think that was just that famous cheapness of Corman, or do you think it was just because he's so old school, he's not even thinking of T-shirts and marketing for the film?
No, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't think about marketing and stuff like that. No. Why would he? I mean,
I think really he should have. I really think he should have, because now, especially nowadays where he's such a legend, if he had more shirts and promo and merchandise for people to buy supporting him, it'd probably make a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, well,
hindsight's always 2020.
Need to make any more money. I don't think. But there's a difference in old school people. They don't do things. See, once upon a time, the studio would send pictures out.
Yeah.
You didn't buy them from the person. I had to get over that too. I thought, I'm not gonna go to a convention and take money from somebody from signing something. Then you're sitting there all day long smiling, and you go, this is hard work. I guess it's okay if I take some money. But that was a big thing for me too. Old school, it's like you don't merchandise yourself, or you don't. It's a whole, and actually, it's the people. If you don't get rid of that, it's to your detriment, because it's different now, and you have to live in the present. But especially some of those old timers are like, what? No.
Sure. Well, yeah, some of them, like, they have that like the viewers are my boss attitude, which I think everybody has, but like they're more like, like that stance with it. To get into conventions, when did you start popping up into the conventions, and like when did you really start to realize that there is a fan base out there that really loves your work?
I had no idea until the internet.
Yeah.
And people would say, oh, there's a site up about, and it's got your, I couldn't believe it. I said, no way.
Yeah.
Because people would recognize me from stuff and everything, but I just thought that was a here and there thing.
Yeah.
And come to find out, and Barbara had the same, she goes, we couldn't believe it. It's like, everybody knows chopping mall? You're kidding me. It's like, and we had to be told, no, it's a thing. It's a thing. And so gradually, I got on the stick with it, I guess. And the first convention I did was the Hollywood show out here. Tony O'Dell told me, you should go do this stuff. And I said, I don't know, He said, you should really go do it. And so I did. And I was like, wow, these people are so glad to see you and everything. This is great. And then, I don't know, I think I've done like 2 or maybe sometimes 3 shows a year. I go when I'm invited, with this thing. You don't just show up, or people have to invite you. They have to want you to come.
Yeah.
And I just love them. I just love them so much, because it's, and you hear these touching stories that in no other, it's not that they're going to email you this story. but since they're there talking to you, they'll tell you something. And, it's so, you can't, the whole point of being an actor is you wanted to reach out to other people. That's,
Yeah.
and so when you find out you did reach out to other people and it meant something to them, that's your whole point of existence. And so we never get to even hear that if we didn't come.
Yeah.
And there's a thing now where we know our fans, we know people online, we know you guys out there. It's not just like you're watching a movie that we made 30 years ago. We also know you. It's great. It's really great. It's like, it feels like a family.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, Mel, do you have any other questions for Kelli?
I actually don't, because like we usually do, we ask everything and it all comes back full circle.
Hell yeah. Well,
Okay.
you know, what's your? I know you just briefly talked about it real quick about the fans. But I guess you already answered it. I was going to say, what's your feeling on the fans, coming out to see and showing their support? Obviously, you're a big fan of it. Love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the whole, and I have heard some bad stories, but I really have. I guess I've been very lucky, and everybody's been really, really nice to me. So I haven't had too many. I mean, there's always one bad apple that's gonna
Right.
come in drunk or something like that.
Right.
But I actually got pretty unscathed with that, knock on wood. So I just think it's great. What was I going to tell you? I forgot. Okay, we're going to hang up, and I'm like, oh man, is that a whole point to the interview?
You're always welcome back.
You can always email it to us, and we can somehow maybe do a news article and post it along with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen no weird interaction with the celebrity and like a guest. I would hate to see that. That'd be so uncomfortable for everybody.
So awkward, right?
Imagine that.
Awkward.
Oh my goodness. Ugh.
Everybody else is like dying for them, It's like, stop it.
So tough. Oh. Oh wow.
Well, Kelli, I think we've taken up enough of your time. I'm like, again, I apologize for the mix-up during all of this. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. No, it was funny. I was like, I know for sure. She said 4:30. I'm sure she said 4:30. And then nothing came. And I went, he was right. It's 7:30. Oh. But it all worked out. It's fine. It's fine. When that happens, if you just don't leave the house and don't go too far, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, if for anybody that doesn't follow you already or interact with you on social media, how can they find you?
Oh, I have a website, kellimaroney.com. I make it really easy to find me. I'm on Facebook, Kelli Maroney, and actress Kelli Maroney, which is my page. It's connected to my website, and I have a group, Kelli Maroney official fan group. It's not private though. And I am Kelli Maroney on Twitter. I should probably spell that because everyone spells it wrong, including on credits. When I was on True Blood, they spelled my name wrong in the credits. I was like,
Kelli, people.
Kelli Maroney. And it's really easy to get wrong.
Yeah.
And then so on Instagram, Kelli Maroney, and now TikTok. I haven't made any TikToks yet, but real Kelli Maroney, because my name was already taken. Which is weird. Get out there and get your names right away. Yeah. Otherwise, you won't have them.
They try and sell them.
I'm going to follow you on TikTok.
There's a whole business of weirdo people that do that. They go get your name so they can sell it to you later.
Oh, that's rotten, isn't it? Yeah. That's rotten.
It's like bottom feeder type stuff. They do it for websites too.
Oh man.
Steal all your information and make their own pages and pretend they're you. Thank you so much, Kelli, for joining us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. We'd love to have you on again. We'll always be promoting you. If you ever got a project you want to come on or just talk, you're always welcome here.
Well, thank you. It's so good to see you.
And hopefully conventions become a thing again and we can actually see you in person again.
Yeah.
Well, it's so, I mean, I would always run into you in person, and You know, it's so great, even on a screen, isn't it? I'm so glad to see you on a screen. You know, familiar
It
faces.
is. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to talk to somebody when you can actually hear what they're saying, because things get misinterpreted through messages so badly that, you know,
Yeah.
it can
And I'll
ruin relationships with people.
I'll give an interview on the phone, and then I'll read what the person wrote, and I have to go, no, that's not what I said. So, and you know, they're fine with it too, but you know, I'm not the only person that they have a whole bunch of stuff that they're doing, and it's very easy for them to get it wrong. But somehow, if you're watching the person say it, I read that you're what is it, like a lot more effective in person about selling. You know, they're talking about people selling stuff on the internet. They said, and people are afraid to sell, and they go, no, you are, what is it, like 80% more effective in person when they could see you than you are typing.
I believe that.
Because you
So
can see, because of facial expressions, the tone of voice that you're using while you're talking to them, it really does make a big difference.
yeah, and when you're talking to somebody, it's not someone, like when you read something, it totally sounds like a sales pitch or whatever. It's, you know, but when you're talking to somebody, they're just telling you about something, and you don't feel, you know, well, sometimes you do. It feels so.
The eye contact is a big thing. Like right now, I feel like I'm looking right at you, like we have real eye contact.
Yeah.
At least, you know.
Actually, when I'm looking at you guys, it's not what I'm supposed to be doing according to everyone. I'm supposed to be talking into the camera and not really looking at you guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm looking at you, or like, but the way I have my camera situated, it makes it that I'm looking straight ahead at all times, just so that it maintains that eye contact.
Right now, doesn't it look like I'm looking at you?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm looking into the eye.
Professional.
Yeah.
Professional.
But that's the beautiful thing about it. But
one of the first ones I ever did, I always screw that up. I hardly ever make it do that well, but one of the first ones I did, it was really obvious. I watched it back and I went, because the interviewer was asking, and it looked like she was asking me the question, but she wasn't. She was talking to the camera, and then I was looking at her. And it really looked stupid. And I went, oh man, I have so much to learn about the Zoom thing.
we're still trying to figure it out. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. I was, yeah. So if you remember, just look in the camera, everyone will think you're looking at them.
Solid advice. Solid advice. I dig it.
So I do what I can. I do what I can to help.
We thank you very much.
It's been delightful talking with you.
Give your darling husband a shout out. Hello.
My well wishes.
And yes, stay safe, stay healthy, and
You
we
too.
can't wait to be able to talk and see you in person again.
Hell yeah.
I know. Won't that be something?
I know.
Finally, after all this, when we finally see each other and we finally see each other in person, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. Like big hugs all around if it's safe.
It'll be safe by then. Yeah.
Okay. It was
All
lovely
right.
to meet you. I talked with
Have
you.
a great
Thank you. It was great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too.
Have a good one.
Have a great
Are you
night.
guys going to hang up, or am I going to hang up? You guys are going to hang up.
You can hang up.
You can hang up.
Are you guys going to still? Oh,
We still talk. We talk about other things afterwards.
So you guys are going to continue. I see.
Yeah. We at the end we're just going to wrap up the show.
Okay. I'm out of here then.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Here's the leave. Oh, there's the button.
Bye bye.